Hello everybody, this is Steve at Caffeine Injection, and in this video we're going to look at editing photographs to be used on your website, and we're going to be using an online editor. Now I should say first of all that I'm not a video content producer, so this video is put together to show you how to do things as opposed to show off some kind of video editing and production skills, of which I have zero. Also, I make these videos in one run. I don't tend to edit them and put lots of different shots together, so if I make a mistake or if I forget to do something, I backtrack. That is all in the video, so you have to bear with me. Hopefully though, you go away at the end of this knowing how to do the things that we're covering. Perhaps not being wowed by my video production skills, however. So, as I mentioned, in this video we're going to use an online editor. Now, lots of people will have photo editing applications on their computers. I use a Mac and I would tend to use Affinity Photo for editing photos. But some of these can be expensive. The most popular one being obviously Photoshop, which is wildly expensive now and is a subscription system, so you have to pay each month to continue to use it. But really, for simple image editing for use on your own website, there's really no need for any of the more expensive apps. There's plenty of very good online editors, and that's what we're going to look at today. So, the editor that I have been that I found, I've been looking around all week for what I think is a good online editor, and the one I've come up with is Pixlr.com. It's Pixlr.com, and that's what you can see on my desktop right now. I just don't accept the cookie. There we go. So I've tried a few this week. Now, obviously, I don't use these as a matter of fact because I use Affinity Designer. But I've used a few this week, and I've settled on this one as it seems to do everything that you're going to need. It's free to use, which is obviously a nice bonus, and it's really straightforward and really simple. There are some editors that are much more complex, have a lot more features, but with the features come complexity and so confusion. So we're all about keeping it simple. So as I say, Pixlr.com, Pixlr, and when you land on that site, this is what you'll see. And you want to go down here to the Pixlr X option. Click that, and you'll be opened into this page here. So there's various options, various ways you can go about doing things. But what we're going to do is we're going to start by just dragging a photograph into the window, into the editor, and then working from there. Now, in this video, we're going to look at producing two types of photos. We're going to look at where you've got a photograph, maybe from your iPhone or Android phone, and you want to edit and change maybe the aspect ratio, change the shape, definitely reduce down the size, and maybe compress it. Now, all of those things are covered in a blog post I did a couple of weeks back on the Caffeine Injection website, which covers why you need to edit photos that you've taken with a phone before you put them on the website. So this is showing you how. So we're going to look at two. We're going to look at taking an image straight from a phone and editing it and making it suitable for a website. And if you run an online store, you very often are going to have to process and produce images to go on that store. So we're also going to look at an image that we have got from somebody else's website, in the manufacturer's website in this particular instance, who manufacture a range of goods. And we're going to take one of those images and we're going to reprocess it to fit your website as opposed to their website, because your website may have completely different requirements. So this video is a bit longer than usual because there are two elements, but I'll try to keep the waffle to a minimum. I don't make promises though. Okay, so first of all, we're going to get a photo that I've taken. So this is a photo here that I have taken with my phone, and we're just going to drag it and drop it straight in here. Now, if we go back to this image and quickly click at the Get Info, we will immediately see that this image is 3 megabytes in size, which is far too heavy. It's far too big a size to be used on a website. And the dimensions are here somewhere. There we go. So it's 4,000 pixels by 3,000. And if you've watched the previous video, you'll understand that's far too big. So we're going to look at some options of reducing that down. So I've taken the image and I've tried to drop it into Pixlr. And you can see immediately it's telling me, look, this image is really big, so let's reduce it down. And these standard image sizes that they give, the standard options they give you, the default options, are really quite handy. Ultra HD, if you were producing what they call retina images, or images that are going to be used full scale with minimal compression and that you want to look good on all types of screens, you would go for Ultra HD, but it's not an area that you really want to worry too much about. The other two options are Full HD and Web. Now, the Full HD will be a good size if you are producing images that are going to span the full width of your web page. So, for instance, with a lot of websites, you'll have a big image across the top. If that's what you're producing the image for, then you could go for something as wide as 1900 pixels. Again, these are elements that are explained in the blog post I did last week, so go and have a read of that before watching this video. But we're going to start off, well, what we're going to actually do, we're going to look at the picture first. I'll reduce that down. So this is the picture that we're going to be editing. Now, what I think we need to do here, and this is obviously probably a good way to start really before you drag the picture in, is to look at the picture and work out what you want to do. So this is the image that we've got, and the first thing we want to do is we're going to need to crop it. We're going to need to change its shape. I want it a little bit more oblong, so a little bit wider than it is deeper. And I probably want to get rid of a lot of this grass down here because that doesn't really add to the image. And I also want to maybe chop out this road. So we've just got these two boys here, and or maybe girls. And yeah, they're all girls, I think. Sheep, yes, whatever. And these ones back here. So we know we're going to be doing a bit of cropping. So that means what we'll do is we'll drop it in and we'll select the Full HD 1920 width, and then as we crop it, we'll reduce the size down, and then we'll reduce it further as we come to export it. But we'll come to that. So we're just going to click apply. And that's it, that's our image. Oh, I'd already done this, but it's asking me to do it again, so we'll just agree. There we go. Okay. So we've got an establishing, I think we're good. There we go. I don't know what that was all about, but okay, so now we've got the image into the editor. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to crop it so that we're taking away the bits that we don't want, leaving the bits we do want. So for that, we go to this tool here. We click that and we literally drag the sides in to where we want them. And you'll notice the size that we're changing the image to is here. So if we move that in, you'll watch that number reduce, and if we bring it out. So you don't really need to worry too much about that at the moment. What you're trying to do at the moment is get what we call, or what the photographers would call, the framing of the shot, right? So this is our main subject, and we want to frame it so they're not completely dead center, because that tends to be a bit boring. So slightly off to one side, but we want to get this little bit of information. Sorry, this little bit of detail, the sheep in the background in the shot as well, although not maybe prominently. So that feels about right. So okay, yeah, we're happy with that. So we're going to apply. So that's what we've got next. Now what we want to do is we're going to adjust the color, because the colors are a little bit flat. I mean, it was taken with a phone. They're not the best. Well, some of them are not the best. Mine certainly isn't. So we're going to click adjust here. And the first thing I would do is just go with the automatic ones here. So we've got an auto adjust where it takes all the levels, it takes all the colors, and it balances it out. So let's click that and see what it does. So that's already made it a little bit stronger. The colors are a little bit more vibrant, things are a little bit more poppy, but maybe we want it a bit more poppy. We want the colors to really pop, or the focus point to really pop. So we'll try the pop option. That's a bit bright, so probably stick with the auto. Unless maybe you want to go black and white, in which case you click black and white. In this instance, we're not going to do that. So we're going to go with auto. Now, if you want to fine tune it, you can fine tune the colors. So if The vibrance, if we put the vibrance right up, it makes it really, really strong. The colours are now really jumping off the page, but that's a little bit excessive. So we'll drop that down a bit, but we'll bring it up slightly higher than it was. Saturation does the same sort of thing. It saturates all the colour. Again, it's a bit overkill, so we'll probably leave that where it was. Temperature, so if we bring that right up, it goes very warm. If we bring it right down, it goes very cold. So the concept of temperature is blue. If you want your image to have a kind of a bluey feel to it, a blue hue, then you go cold temperature. If you want it to have a more sort of orangey temperature, you'd go, oh, I think I'm changing something now. I haven't done that before, so I'm going to have to work out how we get back to that. Here we go, up here, right, okay. I think we must have clicked zoom by mistake. So temperature-wise, I'm going to make it slightly warmer. The tint, same thing. We rarely would touch the tint. And the hue, never fully understood what hue means, but there you go. We'll just leave that as is. We've got lots of other settings here. You can change the lightness, so if you want to make it brighter or darker, change the exposure, which does more or less the same thing visually. Change the contrast, there you go. We'll maybe do that, or maybe make it a little bit more contrasty. The black, now the black will increase the black, and we move it this way, it will take the blackness out, so we're going to leave that more or less where it was. And we've done that one. The white does the same, but with the whites, and then the highlights. You can see what that does. Makes everything a bit, the dark bits brings it a bit brighter. So we're going to leave that where it was. So that's pretty much it. We're kind of happy with that now as our image. So we click apply. Now we just need to save it. So we're going to click save. And this is where we've now got the photo, we've cropped the photo, we've got the colors as we want them. And now we're going to export the photo, and this is the version, this is the exported version that we're going to use on our website. So first of all, the file type. Most of the time you're going to want JPEG. If you're working with this type, the WebP, then you can select that, but most people will work in JPEGs. PNGs, probably avoid those. They can end up with very large files, so unless you really know what you're doing, PNGs are best avoided. Stick with the JPEG. Quality, always click a medium. Go for about 70% quality. If you refer back to my previous blog post, you will see it explains all about the quality levels and how it affects the size. But I'll show you again towards the end of this video the effect. But just in this instance, just click medium. That will normally give you a good enough quality so that on the screen it looks nice and sharp, but it's a small enough file size so that it doesn't really slow down the loading of the web page. And then we just set the size. So when you're setting size, you've got to think about where the photograph is being used. So to give you an example, if we go to the caffeine injection website, got a nifty nose, excuse me. So this image here, I know by looking at that image is about 600-700 pixels across. And if that was the largest size that is going to be rendered on the screen, that's the size we should go for. But you've got to remember that the websites are what they call responsive. So pictures will change width depending on the size of the screen. So what it's always a good idea to do is grab your browser and just reduce it down. Now you can see that that picture is getting smaller and smaller. And in a minute, what's going to happen is it's going to stack. So there we go. So that is the widest that image is ever going to appear on this website. It's about 600-700 pixels. So that's what we would select. If we know that the widest this picture is ever going to be seen on the screen is 700 pixels, there's absolutely no point in saving it at 1500 pixels wide, because it's a much bigger picture that is only going to be reduced in size in the browser. So the bigger the picture, the larger it's going to be, the heavier it's going to be in terms of kilobytes. So it's just completely wasted weight and time, load time on a page. Again, that's explained in that blog post, so go and have a read. So I reckon this image, if we were using it in that application, needs to be about 700 pixels wide. I'm going to add another 100 just to be safe. So we're going to select here 800, and you can see it is automatically sorted out the height of the image so that it maintains the aspect ratio. And we're going to run with that. So we're going to click download, and that's now downloaded. Okay, I don't want to do that. I think that will, there we go, that will go there. That disappears in a moment. So let's now grab it from my downloads file. So this is the image. This is the image that we have just produced. So you remember the original was 3 megabytes. If we open this now, you can see what it looks like. Well, we can see it on there, but that's now what it looks like on my desktop. And if we go to Get Info, we can see that this has now gone from 3 megabytes to 117 kilobytes. So it's massively smaller, but all the information in the photograph that we want on our website is there. So this is why it's vital to process your images. If we put 3 of these images on the website at their original size, at 3 megabytes each, that's 9 megabytes just for 3 pictures. And that would just kill the performance of your web page. Whereas we could do a bit of processing. Once you get the hang of this, this takes a couple of minutes, if that, per image. And we've got exactly the image that we want. We've even played around with the colors to make it nice and poppy. And it's now only 117 kilobytes. I'm not going to bother doing the maths, but it's a lot smaller than the original. And that's that. That's all you need to do. So moving straight into now the second option. The second option, as I mentioned, is producing images to add to your store. Now we're going to use this example. This is a bike. This is a backpack for a bike. I processed these images some time ago for a client whose website we were adding the stock to their store for. So this is the image that we're going to start with, but the image that we've got from the manufacturer doesn't really suit, or might not suit, what you need. Because what you should do with your store, in fact you should do this for all the images on your website, is you need to decide at the start what the size of your images are going to be, and then be consistent. So in your store, you may want the images, when somebody has clicked on, you know, as you go into most online stores, you click an image and a big version of it opens up. So maybe you want the big version to open up to be maybe 1500 pixels wide. So it's nice and big, people can see the detail. But you may have got an image that's say 1400 or 1500 pixels wide, or just a different shape, maybe a different format to what you're after. So it's always a good idea to process your images. Be consistent. Decide at the start the size and the shape of the images you're going to use in your store, and use that every single time. So got a bit waffly there, but hopefully you got the idea. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the start for this, and we are now going to create a new image, because what you'll find is very often images of products have white backgrounds. So that gives us a lot of scope to change the image that we're going to be ending up with. So we're going to create a new image, and we are probably going to go for, I think for a store image, a web image which is 1280 pixels wide and 720 deep. That's perfect. It's plenty big enough for most products, for people, when you click on it you can see all the detail. So we're going to select that, and what we're going to do is we're going to select a background, and you want a white background. Or if your products have come through from the manufacturer and they've got grey backgrounds, pick a grey background, but just pick it to match what you're working with. Scroll down. Now we create. Now what you do is you take this image and you drag it and just drop it straight onto the what we call the desktop that you've just created. And it says here, okay, do you want to create a new project, or do you want to add? So we want to add this image to the current image. So there you go. You can see now that that image that we've dropped in is now sitting inside the other image of the white background that we created. So we can scale it up a tiny bit. You don't want to scale up too much because you'll lose details. But if we want to scale it up, we could scale it up slightly. Or if you wanted to scale it down, you could scale it down slightly. And that's about right. You want it nice and center. You see, you get the nice little guidelines that tell you. There we go. So there we go. So that's nice and center. You can process it. So if we wanted to go in and do some adjustments, maybe let's go auto. I don't think it'll do much, no, because I'd already processed these images. We'll apply that, but that's it. Now we save. We save as a JPEG. Crucially, again, we save at about 70%. we download. And that's it. It takes a long time because you may find that you have to process 50 images for your web store, and so you have to go through that process 50 times. But it's really worthwhile putting the time into getting your images for your store absolutely perfect to match your store. Don't be dictated to by the source that you got the master image from. Do what I've done. Do what I've showed you here. Create the right size for your store and your website. And yes, it takes a long time. Get a cup of tea, chocolate biscuit, and just crack on. So that's it. It's really simple. I hope that's been helpful to you. Please do read the other blog post that I did on my caffeine blog. I'll show you it here. So if we go into the blog, this is it here. No, sorry, this is it here. Processing images for websites, part 1. This video is going to form part 2. But in here, it covers a lot of what we've talked about. It talks about image size, image dimension, the image weight, which if you remember of the first image we started with, it was 3 megabytes, and then we reduced it down to 117 kilobytes. That's the image weight. We give some examples. So if you don't really understand the terminology used around images, have a read of that blog post, caffeineinjection.com, go to the blog and look for processing images for websites, read more. And then once you've read that, come back, rewatch this video, and fingers crossed, you're good to go. Thanks a lot. Hope it's been helpful. Cheers.